Okay, so I've brought in the music track. I'm going to go ahead and click and I'm going to bring it down here, drag it down to my timeline. And we're going to extend this out a little bit here. I'm going to hit LL on the keyboard and that's going to reveal the waveform of the audio track. And you can see here that the waveform is going a little bit past 10 seconds. And if I look up here in the project window, it is 11 seconds, 12 frames. Let's make it 10 seconds because you can see here that's really fading out from about 6 seconds here onwards. It really fades out. So all I have to do is collapse the audio layer, open it back up, and there we have audio levels. So I can set a keyframe for audio levels, and it's just like position, scale, rotation, whatever. You can set a keyframe for audio levels as well. So we'll set a keyframe at 6 seconds for 0, and then we'll go to the end of our timeline, and we will bring down the decibel level until we don't see any audio here. So you can see here as I bring it down, watch over in here what happens. You can see the audio starts to disappear, right? As I'm going further and further down because we can go all the way to a negative 192, which we don't ever really need to go that far. So I'm going to bring it back up just until the audio is just completely out right there. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and hit 0 on the keyboard to preview the audio. So there was the preview of the audio. You can hear the piano hits several times. So that tells me there needs to be several things that happen up in this beginning part of the timeline here, where we hear the piano really kind of hitting the different notes. And then right here we have a ding, which tells me this is where the title needs to come in, which is going to say After Effects Academy Volume 1, The Fundamentals. So if I click and I drag here for the work area in and I bring it up, and I also go back and I take the time navigator end and I bring it forward as well so we can really zoom in here. If I preview this one more time here, I'm going to start adding markers where things need to happen for a glitchy effect. Okay, so I'm going to hit 0 and listen to it. So obviously right here is where the title comes on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit Shift 1 and it adds a marker right here at the top of the timeline. I can now right click on this marker, click settings, and I can type in like show title. So I know right here is where the show title needs to come in, and there it is. Now I'm gonna go back here. I know there's something obviously here. There's a note at the very beginning. There's a note here based on the waveforms. I'm going to hit Shift 1 again. There's a marker. I think there was one here. Shift 2. There's one here. Shift 3. Shift 4. Shift 5. And I think there was one right here. Shift 6. So now if I play it back again and I listen for the piano notes and I look at the markers, I want to see if they kind of line up. So there's one right here I'm missing. So we'll go and we'll say this is Shift 7. So that works pretty well. So that tells me these are the points where I need things to really start happening. So that's always a good way to start with the audio so that, like I've created a one, asset already, but bringing in that audio, which maybe I could have done this first, this really tells me, okay, there's these key moments where things need to happen here. So I've got those marked. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And there we go. Our project is saved. And now if I want to go in and make sure that things happen at these points with the glitch effect I already have, maybe I want to extend the glitch effect. Maybe I want it to be, up to 3 seconds long, or maybe I just duplicate it and do it that way. But actually, let's just extend it. So let's make it go up here to, actually, let's make it go all the way to 4 seconds, just for the heck of it. So we're going to jump into our pre-comp. We're going to go up to composition settings, and we're going to change it from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. I'm going to extend this out so I can see the full timeline here, and extend this out and jump back in my main composition. And in the very first lesson, we learned about setting up our preferences. And one of the preferences that we set up, if I open these up here, is synchronize time of all related items. What this does is it syncs the time indicator here. So if I move to here in my main composition and I double click on my pre-comp is going to be lined up in the same spot, which is right here. So this tells me, based on my marker 1, something needs to happen right here, right? So let's go ahead and just kind of drag these around so something happens, it changes shape right there. We'll go back here, double click. Well, something's happening right there already, so we're good to go. Here, double click. Extend this one out. Here, double click. And maybe we'll just kind of move these out like so. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just actually going to select everything and hit Command D to duplicate, and then just drag to the top, and there we go. So now we're filling up our timeline here, right? And to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm actually going to just rearrange the order of these so they're not all, so it doesn't look like we're just repeating everything over and over again. So I'm just randomly clicking and dragging like so, just to line up edges here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if things kind of overlap a little bit. Because we're going to go back to our main composition here, and we're going to, let's see, we got one set up here. We're going to drag this out, make sure something, okay, so something happens there. Let's go to 4, double click. So something needs to happen right here. Got that one. Fill in the gap here. Back to our composition. Something needs to happen right here. So this guy will pop on. And something needs to happen right there, which looks like that guy does. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to save. And let's preview this. And we don't have to see these shapes constantly, right? So I like them, especially here at the beginning. But then maybe we don't see them here, right? So maybe they kind of go away here. And we have something else that comes on. And maybe they're not here. So very rough start, but it kind of starts setting the ground for what we're going to do here. So the next thing I would do is I want to add some texture to these shapes. They're a little boring being these white shapes here. So let's add some texture to them. So I'm going to go ahead and import a texture file we're going to use for that. So there's our texture. Let's go ahead and bring it to the raster folder here. We'll bring it up in here to stay organized. And how do we make this guy work? Let's actually go ahead and delete a few of these layers here. Okay, so we deleted the ones that aren't being used. Let's go back to our main composition. And I'm going to go motherboard. I'm going to drag it down here. So it's in the composition. Go to my track mat right here and say alpha mat the shape. And there we go. So already you can see it's starting to get a little more interesting here. So things feel a little bit off. Some things should maybe be happening that aren't happening yet. But again, like I said, we're kind of laying the ground here, the groundwork to make it have a base layer, then we'll start adding on top of it. Okay, so let's just start adding some random things here. So like maybe right here at 101 where this mark happens, let's add a new shape layer. So we'll select our timeline, we'll go to layer, new shape layer. And let's make a circle again, because we love circles for this thing. It's all about circles and squares. And we'll make it 200 by 200, maybe 300 by 300. And we'll go ahead and set the endpoint here. And let's just have it scale up for maybe 50%. Maybe to about here where something else happens. So we'll have it scale way up, something crazy like that. And I'm gonna hit Option in bracket, and it's gonna cut the layer off here. So we've kind of got this weird thing going on here. And I'm gonna save, and I'm gonna add an interesting effect here. And this effect is called strobe. It's under stylize strobe light. So you can type it in here. Or we could go up to our effect, stylize strobe light here. Let's take a look at it. Not really doing much, right? Kind of boring. So let's go ahead and let's decrease the strobe duration way down. It's really fast. And let's make the period also very quick. One other thing we got to do here is we have to say makes layer transparent. So it's going to kind of flash on, so you can see it there. It's doing its thing. So that's kind of interesting. We could try something here. We could, where's the texture? Here's some texture here. So we could change the mode. We could try something like hard light. And you can see it's just a little bit transparent through there now. Just a little bit. So that's with hard light and that's without. So it's fully opaque there. I'm going to redo that. And it just gives it a little bit of texture there. Also, I think it could be interesting if we just did right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. It's always good to have some ease on your keys no matter what. Let's also give this basic white shape a little bit of texture. So how would we do that? Well, here's a little trick for you. If we go up to layer styles, bevel and emboss, open that up. And if we change the highlight mode from screen to dissolve, and from shadow mode from multiply to dissolve, and then we increase the, we kind of play around with these parameters. You can see right there, we're already getting some interesting like kind of texture. It's almost like a shadow grainy texture there. It's set to up. We could set it to down, so it comes down this way. I kind of like up like that. Yeah, just, something very basic. We could also change the color of this if we wanted it to be like a, like a bluish color. You can add that right there. So that's kind of cool. And I know I'm jumping around here, but let's actually just kind of focus in now here at the beginning. So let's just go to the beginning and see how we could open this up. So it might be kind of interesting to do like a film kind of effect here. I love like old filmy kind of things. And I've got a few different textures we can try here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in film one. I'm just going to drop in the top here and kind of play around with it here and see how it looks. Let's set it to something like screen. So you can already tell how much of a difference this made right here at the beginning. So maybe it just plays for a few frames. So we're already getting kind of glitchy here. So again, this thing's really bugging me. How it kind of switches from this perfect grid to this and this. So maybe these overlapping here, this is kind of what's throwing me off. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. Something like that. And it's still bugging me. It's funny, as a designer, there's certain things you see and you just can't let them go, right? So I like how this pops forward. I don't like that. And I think it's because there's empty space here and now it's full here. So I think, oh no, that's what it is right there, this block. So this guy needs to line up with these guys. So I'll just overlap them like so. And it'll make it a little bit bigger. Maybe like that. Let's see what this does. Very cool. So that's starting to come together. So right when we pop out of here, right about here, I want something to happen. I think that it might be interesting to see. So that's where we're at. We're at 11 frames. I think I want to see the circular shapes here instead of the square shapes. So we're going to go ahead and bring this up because we're not even seeing this one here. So we've got that film process going on. So not that one, maybe this one. Let's turn this guy off. And let's go ahead and bring these guys up. Something like so. I'm going to hit comma, just so I can kind of line up. I'm looking vertically here. I'm also looking at horizontal spacing and horizontal and vertical, just kind of eyeing it here, nudging it with my keyboard. Yeah, that feels a little bit too big. And maybe it's because I built this composition so big because I wanted the ability to scale and move things around. So actually, I like that much smaller already. Yeah, it's not so in your face. This circle, even though this is centered, I feel like it should be kind of maybe over in here. Like that. And the whole thing is we're going to kind of go with black and white, but the color that we throw in is going to be this kind of digital color. So it's okay if we see these kind of weird white and black things and just this occasional color, which we're going to cover up some of this color here. So right here, I want something to happen. And I want to create another shape to put in right here. So let's create a new composition, and we'll make this a square composition. So let's make it 2000 by 2000, and let's call this circular shape. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and import some footage into here. Footage, but actually meant a photograph. This is from a site called Unsplash. I pull a lot of things off of there. We're gonna do something like that. So let's make a mask on this shape layer, on this texture. So I'm just gonna click, I'm gonna hold down Shift, Option, or Alt, and Command. And I'm just clicking and dragging just to make a perfect circle here, kind of fill in the frame. I'm also gonna make this black and white. So I'm gonna go to Effect, Color Correction, Tint. There we go. Okay, and above this layer, we're going to create a new adjustment layer. And to this, we're going to add a transition. And transition is called Venetian Blinds. And immediately it's like, well, what's going on here? Well, we're going to turn this up to about 50. And we're going to make the width 40, so it's bigger. And then we're going to turn it. So something like -45. If I can get it right. And let's crank up the width a little bit more here. Something like that. So that's kind of cool. And we'll just call this Venetian Effects. And then we're going to bring in another photograph here. This is just another photograph. It's a texture. I love working with textures. And we're going to scale this puppy up just a little bit to fill the frame. And then we're going to select a rectangular tool. And we are going to click and drag and make another shape. Double click there. I'm holding down shift. So I'm rotating 45 degrees. And I'm going to bring this guy in. Right, like so. Hit comma to kind of line it up in the center. Zoom in here. And doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm holding down shift again to bring this guy in to kind of line up with the edge here. Like that. I'm going to hold down shift here, bring it in. So it aligns. Actually, we'll pull it up, something like that. There we go. We've got an interesting shape pattern here that we can try and apply right here. So let's go circular shape and we'll bring it in, drag it right here to the 1 and have it come on very quickly. And I'm going to take the end point here and just drag it down, just make it very short. Let's actually go to columns, duration, so I can see how long things are. 7 frames. Let's make it, well, let's take it all the way here and just see what happens here. So maybe something like this would be interesting if it rotates. So I'm actually going to scale it down. Something like so. Set it to like an overlay mode. Yeah, that's interesting. Hit R for rotation. Set a keyframe. And go down here. And maybe make it rotate 45 degrees. Like so. Let's just see what that looks like. So I like it. It's too slow. So we've got another marker here. So maybe if it cuts out right there. And I don't like the rotation. Immediately see that. So maybe it just pops on. And maybe it comes in here instead. Because I like to see these guys kind of by themselves. And if I turn this back to normal, so it'll cover up those guys like that. And let's go ahead and scale it back up again. I don't want to see the perfect shape of it. So let's see what 100% looks like. Something like that. I'm going to duplicate this film texture again, bring it in here, and kind of, here's a little trick for you as well. When you have a layer like this where the end is kind of brought in and the end is brought in here and the beginning is brought in as well, instead of having to like kind of find a place and kind of drag in and out points around like this, you can use the pan behind tool or the anchor point tool, which is Y, and you can click and you can drag, and it moves the footage within the same in and out, like the length of the clip, but it moves the in and out points. So I can kind of drag it around like so and still use the same duration. So let's just see here. If I change this to, I love to play around with different screen modes. Maybe if it's below everything here, let's see what this looks like. Let's change it back to overlay. Screen. Maybe bring it above. Let's just play that. I'm not loving that. So let's try one of these other film pieces I have. I'm holding down Option and I'm dragging on top of my footage in the timeline. And by holding an Option, it actually replaces that footage. So I don't have to bring down the footage, set new in and out points and things like that. I can just bring it in, replace, and there we go. So we'll make this one really quick here. Yeah, that's already more interesting. Okay, so let's enough for this video. Let's go ahead and pause this one and we'll start up with the next video.